Welcome to this Chaos Control Cloud explainer video on how to handle invoices and orders that you can't yet dispatch. They might be a future order in terms of when the customer wants their delivery. They might be orders that you haven't got all of the stock that you need in order to fulfill them as 100%, or they might be orders that you've put on manual hold for some reason because either you or the customer aren't yet ready for the goods to be dispatched. Hopefully you've seen our explainer video on how to process invoices through the Invoice Manager. If you haven't, pop off, have a look at that now, and then come back. Done that? Jobs are good. So, the future stage in the Invoice Manager of Chaos Control Cloud is where we handle all of our invoices that can't be dispatched straight away, can't be worked on. So this future area, and we've got this on the pane on the left here, allows us to pull out any invoices that we don't want our pick, pack, dispatch people working on straight away, so that we can understand kind of workflows, we can analyze what's going on, and we can be aware of what we need to do. It breaks down to three sections: awaiting date, awaiting stock, and manual hold. And during this video, I'm going to run through each of these areas, and then with awaiting stock, I'm going to talk about how we can then take an order that's awaiting stock and move it back into our pick process so that it can be dispatched. So first of all, let's have a quick look at awaiting date. So awaiting date is the stage in Chaos Control Cloud where if you've put a sales order onto the system, either you've imported it from a channel or you've keyed it on manually, and you've given it a future delivery date, so it's not an order that can be processed straight away, it will drop into the awaiting date folder. So you can see the delivery date for this is the 3rd of April. We're recording this on the 30th of March. So the system's dropped that into the awaiting date stage when the order was created, and it will either release that automatically once it becomes due, or we can release that manually. So each of the future stages has one action against them. As you'll have seen from the video yesterday, a number of different stages in the Invoice Manager have actions that are relevant to them. For the future stages, the only action that's relevant is to release the invoice. So if we wanted to manually release our awaiting date order, we could do that by green selecting it, going to the Actions button, and clicking Release. It asks us to confirm because this will put it back into the order process to be dispatched. So we say yes and continue, and that drops into our released stage. So the release stage at the top of our orders pane is the first stage of the invoice process for anything that's ever been into a future stage. As we talked about in our previous video on the Invoice Manager, if an order comes into Chaos Control Cloud, or you key it into Chaos Control Cloud and everything's good to go from day one, it will drop into the staging stage. However, any invoice where there's been an issue previously, or you've put it on manual hold for some reason, or there's been a stock shortage, etc., when you release it into your order process, it will go into that release stage first. And that released stage just gives you a chance to sense check that you're happy for everything that's been released from your future pane to be worked on within the pick, pack, dispatch process. Okay, so that's awaiting date. Awaiting stock orders are any orders or invoices that have a fulfillment percentage that's less than 100%. So you can see that will range from things like this game as anonymous order, where we've nearly got everything, but not quite, through to things like Matt's Test Company and Mole Police Station, where we haven't got any of the stock they want for their order. So in terms of how you use the awaiting stock stage, firstly, it's a highlight to say these orders can't be processed yet, so you can decide if you want to kind of prioritize them or anything else. Secondly, you can release orders for dispatch anyway. So if you've got a customer who urgently wants part of their order, we could click in to Game as Anonymous, go to the sales order, and we could have a look at what they're actually waiting for. So we can see that the Hippo Giant Plus driver they've ordered is in stock. If they didn't want the sun protection spray we've got on the order for them as well at the moment, then what we could do is part dispatch the order. So if we go back to the dispatch screen, we could green select Game as Anonymous's order, and we could release that into our pick, pack, dispatch process. Okay, so that's dropped into here. We're getting a warning in terms of the copy that the payment amount isn't valid, so we'll have to sort that on the way through. And when we dispatch this order, it will be 99% fulfilled, which means when the invoice is issued, a second invoice for the same sales order will be generated, will drop into awaiting stock until either the goods are booked in or we manually assign that stock to the sales order. The other option when it comes to dealing with back orders that we want to get out of the door is to see if there are any options with regards to moving stock around. So we've got an order here for Dr. Simon Smith that we know is short. If we click into the sales order, we can see what the shortage is. So again, it's that suntan spray. I can have a look at that product, and I can see that actually I've now got 41 of these available. So there is stock in the system that we could be using to fulfill the order. It's obviously been adjusted in since the order was created, which is why it hasn't been automatically assigned. In order to get this stock assigned, the quickest way is to use the back order manager in the dispatch screen. So let's open a new dispatch screen and go to the back order manager. I'm going to filter this by stock code. So let's click on that and find our Banana Beach suntan spray and click go. So these are all the orders for that banana boat quick dry sports stuff that we're interested in. I know that 505 was the ending point for Simon Smith's order from earlier, because I'm a bit of a nerd in that regard. However, I can flick across and see Dr. Simon Smith's on the grid as well. So this is the order we're interested in. I can also see that we've got 41 available and that we've sold one but assigned nothing to the order line. So having green selected that line, I can use the actions button in here to allocate stock to the order. The system asks me to confirm that I want to do this, and it asks me to confirm the quantity. Click on continue, and you can see the line changes color because we've now got this fully assigned, and we can also see the invoice stage has updated to released. So if we go back to the invoice manager and we click into the release stage, we'll see that Dr. Simon Smith's order has been released. Our fulfillment percentage is up to 100%, and we can push that order through the process. Our second option when it comes to getting invoices out of waiting stock and into our pick pack dispatch process is to rob Peter to pay Paul. So I can see I've got an order here for Stuart Carnally, which is 83% fulfilled. If I flick into this, it will show me what's short. So I can see the chocolate penguins are all good, but he needs a staple gun. So a quick way to find out what my options are with regards to staple gun is to use the back order manager again. So I've already got that open, and what I've done with the back order manager is I've filtered it by product code. So if we search for the staple gun there, double click that in and click go. This brings back all of the orders that are currently active, so either in my orders pane, so they're being processed through pick pack dispatch, or in a future stage for the staple gun. So I can see I've got an order in waiting stock here where we've sold 251 staple guns to this customer, and we've assigned 45 already because obviously when the order was created that's how many we had in stock, but that means we've still got a huge shortage and we're not interested in dispatching that until the customer's happy. So what I could do in this instance, in terms of dealing with Stuart Carnally's order, would be to unallocate one of those items, or perhaps all of them, so we can free them up, and then use them to dispatch the other goods that are waiting. So within the back order manager, as we are at the moment, I'd green select that staple gun line for Jane Arrow, and I'd go to my actions button and I'd unallocate the stock. We're going to set the quantity to 45. I can't see any point having anything allocated to Jane at the moment. Let's click on continue, and we can see that's updated. We've sold 251, but nothing is assigned. That means that we can then find Stuart's order within here, and we can see he's down there, and we can get his stock assigned. So I can go actions, allocate stock, yep, continue, jobs are good. Stuart's order will be released, and that can be processed through. The last of our three future stages to talk about is manual hold. So we touched on this at the start of the video. Manual hold is the area where we can place invoices that we don't want to work on right now in terms of pick, pack and dispatch. There could be any number of reasons why that's the case. It gives us the flexibility to take those out of our workflow and not waste any time on them. So in order to get an order into manual hold from any stage in the invoice manager, so for example in staging, say we decide the Albert Hotel aren't going to have their order now, we're going to hold on to it for some reason, we've got a payment query there, so that might be a reason for it, we can just drag and drop into manual hold. Okay, and if we go back to manual hold, we'll be able to see the Albert Hotel's order there. Okay, so in terms of releasing an order from manual hold, as and when you're sat there thinking, yep, I'm happy for those to actually go, we can select those three invoices from Jane Arrow, say we're happy to release them, we green select, click on the actions, click release, confirm and continue. And those drop into that released folder again, as with awaiting date and awaiting stock. Anything you release from a future stage, including manual hold, will go into your released stage first. which means you've got a chance to sense check it before it hits your pick, pack, dispatch process properly and starts being pushed through the system. That's how you handle future orders in Khaos Control Cloud. We've looked at the awaiting date stage, the awaiting stock stage, and how to get orders out of those stages, especially allocating stock to orders that can be fulfilled. And then finally, we've looked at manual hold, so how you can manually hold on to orders that you don't want to process yet and also release those. Thank you very much for watching.